Call the meeting to order. And do we have a public hearing? If there's nobody wishes to speak that we're aware of. No. Okay, the minutes were sent out. Everybody have a chance to review them? If so, I'll accept the motion to approve. I see George, Stephen, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? No, the minutes are approved. Okay, there does not appear to be a public forum. And John, I don't think you're on there. We don't have you audio yet, John. I see your name there, but I don't see your phone. So, oh, John.
Hello.
Oh, we got you. Okay.
All right.
Good. Well,
yeah,
you're
I dialed in. I was late. It took a couple times to dial in to get through. So,
well,
good evening. So the first item on my agenda is the meter project. I'm sorry, not the meeting project. We're just at about 9,300 installed, under 2,000 to go. We're about 83% complete. We're making a push, the next few weeks to really get as much of these finished up. Right now, it looks it'll probably be about 250. They have issues with service lines or interior plumbing issues that will need to be addressed at some point. So we're going to have to push people to get those done. So that's actually a bit better than I had thought. I thought it'd be almost double that. So I'm actually pleased with that aspect. So, and maybe even some of those with more research on our part versus what we have from information from the contractor base date, we may be able to get some of those done as well too. So, but I'm sure there'll be a few at the end that people can't afford to do their service lines or are resistant to it. So, but most of those, out of those 250, there's serious issues with their service line. So it's in their best interest to get them done because many of them are actually leaking or weeping through the piping, the old iron pipe or galvanized pipe right at the meter. So that's why we, just can't touch those things without, fear of them coming apart. So, but having said that, it's, something that's, in near to failure as it is. So, but we are going to be assessing the $50 charge with the next billing to Jen. Do you know how many we got it down to out of that 625? Hello?
You're muted, Jen.
Oh, I guess Jen didn't hear me.
Yeah, no,
She
I
did.
didn't. I thought my volume was on. I don't remember saying the exact amount. I know that she's a little worried because when we assess the fee each month, when we generate a bill run, we got to figure out which accounts need that fee, and we're gonna have to add that fee manually to all the accounts. So
there was about 625, but I know that, between Missy and Jen, they got it down a bit by calls and things like that. So I'm sure we'll still catch a couple that, may have tried to make an appointment or something like that. And anybody who does make an appointment.
John, was that just the bad services, or because we got a few files today from Ethan?
Yeah, no, that's separate. So.
Oh, okay. I honestly didn't see that list then, but I know we worked on a bunch and we made some appointments, a bunch of appointments today.
So it's going to be a real crunch time. We're going to have 1-2-person crew from distribution going around checking. Some of them have curb stop issues and stuff. So we've got a list of those, probably about 70 of them. So. Basically it'll be all hands on deck in the next couple of months to try to get these all wrapped up because we're nearing the end of the contract with the installer and we just want to get this wrapped up. So like I said, I'm sure there'll be some stragglers at the end of the project and we'll pick through those over the next few months, but we'll like to get it down to under 2 to 300 or so. But next thing up on my agenda is any questions on the meter project at all? Anybody have anything that
Looks like you're all set, John.
Okay. The Narrows Road Hydro Turbine Project, we have the certificate from the town that everything's complete there from Westminster. So we're just waiting for the final permits to be issued for the turbine itself. There's, we have National Grid, but we also have some hydroelectric type permits that had to be done, and they had equivalent permitting to a hydroelectric dam, although not quite as involved, but it still falls under the same thing, even though it's a pipeline versus a dam and spillway and that type of system. But so I'm hoping I'm going to follow up tomorrow. I meant to actually today just to see where that was at. So I'm hoping that we can actually turn it on and start generating some power there within the next week or two. So that'll be the final thing. So we're real pleased with the overall project. We did a lot of work to the building. It wasn't just a hydro turbine. That whole roof, that flat roof at that Narrows Road PRV station was in tough shape. So we took the concrete slabs off the top to get the turbine and some piping and things like that. And I was putting together some pictures of the project too. I'll probably forward those in the coming days just to show you how much was actually removed from there, unnecessary and oversized valves and piping. They really took up a lot of room in that building and made it very difficult to do any type of maintenance. And like I said, it was nothing that we have used or will use at any time. So it really cleaned up all the piping. So, but yeah, that facility's in great shape now. It has new heating. The piping's all fixed. Anything, that could have been leaked or, coupling or anything like that was replaced there. And all that work was done while keeping that facility operating, because that's the only way by which water comes from the regional plant in Westminster down to the city. So I'm happy with the contractor. I'm happy with our people. It just was a great project. There's a couple little hiccups, but we tackled those and got them done, and made it all the better for that. So perhaps sometime it might be able to give a tour up there. If this COVID stuff gets a little bit better and it's already headed in the right direction. But I think it'd be interesting for everybody to see that. So my agenda is the SCADA project. The loans are all set. Basically allowed to borrow. We got notice of that after it went through the final reading at City Council at the first meeting in March. So that's all set. And that loan also applied to the next item, was the fluid transmission main project. So with the SCADA project, we're working on getting the contract signed with the low bidder Fall River Electric, which we've heard good things about when talking with other water systems and wastewater systems that have had them do SCADA systems. So we're hoping that they do a good job for us and we can get this thing completed by the end of the year. So that's probably I've said it before, but our most important project in the near future is to get that done. So next on the list of the fluid transmission main project, we've got quite a bit of the Weston Sampson has quite a bit of the design done, and we're actually going to be going before the Conservation Commission in the near future just to get that permitting moving along. And we're hoping to, get everything out to bid so we can start construction right after July 1st, the beginning of the next fiscal year. So, and then get that done by the end of the calendar year. So it's a important project, but it's about 2,000 feet of 24-inch piping, and there's nothing else in the way, basically. So the only tough part is just going through the dam, and even that's not that much of a headache. There's some permitting involved, but construction wise it's not that difficult. It just has to use some selected fill with the backfilling and things like that. Nothing else real complicated, so they should move along pretty quick once they get going on it. So, and basically there's no connections beside the connection at the plant and the connection down at the tanks. There isn't like when we do a street or something like that where we have hydrants and valves and things like that. We just it'll fly right along. So, give us the full capacity to pass everything we can through the pool plant to those tanks. and not have that backing up that we've had with in the clear well when we've tried to push more water to get those tanks higher. And so, and hopefully that'll you know, for the next 100 years or more, the city won't have to worry about that transmission main. So, the last item on my agenda is the regional plant. Now, at the regional plant, we have backwash from the clarifiers and filters and things like that that basically discharge to the environment. There isn't a sewer connection up there. It goes to a couple settling lagoons and then discharges to the environment. At Ringe Road, the Flula plant, it does discharge to the sewer system, so we don't have the issue there. But at the regional plant, US EPA and Mass DEP, they're basically tightening the discharge limits for those type of discharges. And we had a meeting with US EPA and DEP officials a couple weeks ago, just talking about what the permitting is going to look like down the road and what the limits are going to be. And it looks like they're going to attach some pretty strict limits to our discharge. And there's a whole bunch of calculations that go in, an amount of organic carbon in the receiving water body, the pH in this receiving water body, and it's just a complicated formula, but based on their testing and things like that, and looking at that where discharges, our limits are going to be pretty strict. Lemons is going to have something similar too. So, but we may be all right for the first permitting, which is like in a year or two. I mean, they've been telling us for a while, so you know, they're just very slow to get this done, which is to our benefit. But so that first level will step down a bit on the discharge that we have as far as the limits for aluminum. But the one that's 6 or 7 years down the road, when they permit, you know, issue another permit, and that'll probably get pushed off the way. They're just very, very slow, like I said. That one will be very stringent. So we could need to start looking at what we would do for the discharge. I know that Jeff doesn't want to, I'm sure he doesn't want to take any more at the treatment plant than what we have from Ringe Road. So looking at what we can do on site, we have quite a bit of room up there. So we believe that, and DEP and Mass, DEP and US EPA are in favor is trying to, you know, do something on site so that we can keep the, you know, rather than, you know, not it flowing through the Nashua River, you know, the water itself taking and bypassing, that we can actually treat it and discharge it as we have been doing, but just treat it at a higher level. So, and maybe even infiltrate some into the ground up there. So not quite as much goes over the little spillway per se. So, but the bottom line is it's going to cost a bit to do that. And we just need to figure out, working with Weston Sampson on this, and figure out what's the best approach. I mean, we just don't want to, you know, try to meet the standard in 2 years and find out that, you know, that system's not going to work. We need to, you know, reconstruct something for 6 or 7 years road. And it's a bit of a frustrating point for me is dealing with them, is that, you know, they're not 100% sure what the levels will be down the road. They got to do some more testing and things like that of our discharge, as well as the water quality of the receiving water body. But so we kind of got to do the best we can with what we have, but at the same time minimize, you know, the cost of whatever work that's going to be done or whatever treatment's going to be done up there. And basically what, you know, we have 2 lagoons that, you know, settle out the solids, and then the discharge flows over. We pump out those a couple times a year. We're actually probably looking at those aligned lagoons. We're probably looking at something that's unlined to allow for some groundwater, you know, to hit the discharge to the groundwater. Some larger settling, maybe a couple different larger basins to alternate between the two, things like that. Not a treatment system per se, like a, you know, mini wastewater plant, but something on that line, just some larger lagoons for settling basins, you know, with a possibility of discharging to the groundwater table, which again, US EPA and DEP both said that they would, you know, would be fine with that. So anyways, that's coming up on the horizon. Like I said, they've been slow to get this stuff to us, and they still haven't got all the information to us. And when they talk about, you know, a permit change in 1 to 2 years, it's probably a little bit longer than that. And even they admitted that. So probably the 6 or 7 years, 7 years is further out. You know, I hate to see some interim limits put in place that we have to meet. And then, you know, I don't like to spend the money until we have to, and we're certain what they're going to require. But I hate to do something in the interim and then find out that that's not, you know, going to be able to be integrated with what has to be done there on the road. So it's something we need to be careful of and figure out the best approach for it. So that's all I have for this evening. If there's any questions on that.
Any questions for John? John, it looks like you're okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jeff, what do you got?
Going to the wastewater agenda, the very first thing I have is a continuation of our sewer ordinances update. We've gone through the process of getting the ordinance updated, approved by City Council. We've actually informed EPA of the changes that we've made. So the situation we're in right now is dealing with our intermunicipal agreements to make sure that both Westminster and Lunenburg, we each have IMAs with each community to make sure that they are compliant with our ordinances. So at the turn of the year, early January, I sent notification under the terms of the 2 IMAs to each of the recipients, Westminster and Lunenburg, notifying them of the change. Last month, I asked the commission to vote and approve a time extension for each community, and the commission, of course, did at last month's meeting. Since that time, we received the draft town bylaws from the town of Westminster addressing our changes. Those came in at the very beginning of this week, I believe. I take that back, the beginning of last week. I haven't gotten around to reviewing it and providing feedback yet, but we have Westminster's draft bylaw that addresses our changes. As of yet, we don't have feedback response from Lunenburg, and I don't doubt at all that we'll get that within a fairly short time frame, probably before the end of March. But subsequent to this meeting of the commission, I will make a point of reaching out to Lunenburg just to touch base and to see how they're progressing in the development of draft rules and regulations that will comply with our requirements. The part B to this agenda item transitions over to the matter of rules and regs. This has been a continuing saga for us for over a year now, I think. And I think that we're very close to actually having this finalized. At last month's meeting, we had gone through a number of questions that were received, and we didn't have all that many. And I think that there was only one outstanding question from last month's meeting. But since the list of questions are relatively short, I thought that I would shotgun our way through those questions and answers. And if the commission then approves, I would ask that the commission approve to implement the rules and regs with the subject changes. With that, I'll go into the questions and answers. The first one concerns section number 11 within the rules and regs on sewer connection permit. The existing language of the then final draft of the regs said, prior notice, any person proposing a new discharge into the system or a substantial change in the volume or character of pollutants that are being discharged into the system and requiring a change in the existing connection shall notify the commission at least 45 days prior to the proposed change or connection. And the real crux of the question on this particular draft language had to do with the time stipulation. Is that typical? Is that not typical? Since that question was first raised, I circled back with both my sewer system manager and also DPW engineering. And what we would propose is replacement language that covers the point. And I'll read that proposed language right now. And I apologize, I did send this out as a PDF attachment to the commission members. It came late, and if the commission members haven't received it, I'll apologize for that. I'll read the proposed language change. Any person proposing a new discharge into the system or a substantial change in the volume or character of pollutants that are being discharged into the system and requiring a change in the existing connection shall obtain a sewer connection permit from DPW engineering prior to connection of the new or modified discharge to the city's collection system. End sentence. Next sentence, all sewer connection permit applications must be accompanied by a utility site plan approved by DPW Engineering Division. So this process routes through its workflow by going through the Engineering Division. So the language as presented, it gets away from a finite time duration that was proposed in the initial language. Are there any questions on this proposed modification?
Any questions? No, I mean, I think to me, it satisfies what I was concerned with just having an arbitrary 45 days didn't seem necessary. Although okay. It might take that, and although it might take that long, at least we know the process we're going through.
Okay. Item number 2, or question number 2, I should say, concerned section 17 in the rules and regs, gravity discharge to sewer. The existing wording was all building sewer laterals shall discharge by gravity to the city sewer system or combined sewer, period. The building drain shall be brought into the building at an elevation below the basement floor, period. In all new or substantially rehabilitated buildings in which any building sewer lateral is too low to permit gravity discharge, wastewater shall be lifted by an approved means and allowed to discharge by gravity, in parentheses, i.e. not under pressure, end parentheses, to the city sewer or combined sewer if approved in writing by the DPW commissioner or his/her authorized designee, and the owner obtains all necessary permits from DPW. So the initial wording of this language seemed to preclude connections other than gravity connections, and we wanted to clarify what that process would be by which we would accept non-gravity connections. So when we circled back with the team, we came up with this proposed replacement language. Again, for section 17, gravity discharge to sewer. That's still the header name of the section. The paragraph now reads, unless approved in writing by the Commissioner of Public Works or his/her designee, and the owner obtains all necessary permits from the DPW, comma, all new or substantially rehabilitated building sewers shall discharge by gravity to the city's separate sanitary sewer or combined sewer, period. The building drain shall be brought to the building at an elevation of 3 feet, in parentheses, minimum, end parentheses, below finished grade at the penetration through the building envelope, period. Those buildings in which any building sewer lateral is too low to permit gravity discharge, wastewater shall be lifted by an approved means and allowed to discharge by gravity, i.e. not under pressure. Again, that was in parentheses, to the city sewer or combined sewer. So what we're trying to highlight with this change is that we want special attention paid to connections which are not of the gravity sewer connection type. And we will permit these, but we're looking to have permission granted that is kind of over and above the traditional sewer permit connection, just because it is a special circumstance. And we kind of want to make sure that this is being proposed in a proper way by the proponent in a way that would be acceptable to the city. Any questions on revised language number 2?
Questions on that? Good, Jeff.
Number 3 was section 19, prohibited connections, which was on page 14 of the draft document. The original language was somewhat short, and we lengthened it with our proposed revision. The original language read, connection of an individual wastewater disposal system, comma, whether directly or indirectly to a city sanitary sewer, comma, combined sewer, comma, or stormwater drain is prohibited, period. So there was some ambiguity about what's really referred to, or what's meant, I should say, by individual wastewater disposal system. So we're proposing to address that ambiguity with this following change. Connection of an, in quotations, individual wastewater disposal system, end quote, as herein defined, comma, whether directly or indirectly to a city sanitary sewer, combined sewer, or stormwater drain is prohibited. Next sentence. In quotes, individual wastewater disposal systems, end quote, shall include, but not be limited to, an individual residential home septic system or tight tank system, semicolon, a multi-family residential home septic system or tight tank system, semicolon, a commercial or industrial property septic system, comma, or on-site decentralized treatment system, semicolon, or an on-site decentralized treatment system servicing multiple properties. So we're really trying to flesh out and remove that ambiguity in what was actually intended by the original language. So it is a little bit wordy, but I think we solidly addressed the ambiguity question. Any questions or comments on number 3?
That it does explain it. It's good for me.
Number 4 concerned inflow and infiltration, and this was section number 32 of the rules and regs. The original language was not proposed to be amended, but I went on to explain what the background is behind number 4, inflow and infiltration. The language read in the final draft: an applicant for sewer connection or extension seeking to add flow of 15,000 gallons per day or greater shall be required to mitigate infiltration and inflow, which adds extraneous water to the city's sewer system, thereby reducing its capacity and capability, comma, at a rate of 4 gallons of infiltration inflow removal for each gallon, each additional gallon of wastewater that will be discharged to the sewer system. And this really ties us back to the state regulation CMR, 314 CMR 12. This is a requirement that wastewater has to comply with in addition to our NIPD's permit, which regulates how we do things. And within this regulation that was updated in 2014, there's a provision that applies to combined sewer systems. Obviously, one day we're not going to be a combined sewer system, but presently we are. So we're intending to cover the city in its possible exposure, liability exposure relative to the state regulation. So that's kind of the background on this. And above that, we don't want to be getting all kinds of groundwater and stormwater into the system for which we don't receive revenue anyways. Does anyone have any comments or questions on number 4 in the explanation I provided?
Questions?
Okay, number 5 question is the final question I had, and then I'll ask the commission if there are any additional questions that may have come up since February. Number 5 concerns section number 33, construction of below-grade plumbing on page 19. The wording read under section 33 in the final draft language version: all plumbing fixtures located at an elevation below the adjacent roadway elevation, comma, which contains the city sanitary or combined sewer serving the proposed plumbing, comma, shall be considered to be subject to backflow and shall be equipped with a backwater valve in accordance with 248 CMR section 2.094 of the Uniform State Plumbing Code, and also 780 CMR section 10.15 II of the State Building Code. The backwater valve shall be furnished, installed, and maintained at the owner's expense. So what was flagged in the question for this is there seemed to be appearingly a redundant language with another section. In what was cited was section 20. And the answer to the question, is this redundant, was yes. So what we've done is we've taken a look at the language of section 33 and we've simplified it so that we're pointing back to section 20 and not having redundant language. So in the proposed revised language, it now reads, all plumbing fixtures located at an elevation below the adjacent roadway, comma, which contains the city sanitary or combined sewer serving the proposed plumbing, comma, shall be considered to be subject to backflow and shall be equipped with a backwater valve, comma, and then new language inserted clarifying is as specified in section 20 of these sewer rules and regulations. So we're removing redundant language and we're simplifying in response to the question.
Simple is good. Any questions on that? Nope. Any other questions on the, or Jeff, did you have anything further on the, and
no, Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask exactly what you were going to ask if any other commission members have any additional questions. And then if not, I would ask that the commission vote to approve the rules and regs as amended in tonight's discussion.
Are there any other questions? Okay, would someone like to make a motion that we approve the rules as amended and presented this evening? See, George has a motion. Do I have a second? Stephen seconding. Okay. Do we have further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll accept a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Looks like we have unanimous on that. There are no opposed, correct? No. Okay. Good. What's up? What else you got, Jeff?
Well, I would just add one comment on that. Obviously, these are our rules and regs. The commission has the authority to promulgate rules and regs. So if we ever saw fit to make any amendments, changes, additions, subtractions, the commission would be able to do that only unless it does not include addition of fines or fees. That authority, of course, in addition to setting the sewer rates, is still held by the city council. We had one loose end from the city solicitor. He was concerned that if a hearing appellant were to disagree with the commission's finding or ruling in a hearing, how would that appellant then appeal the decision of the commission? And I'm still working with the city solicitor on that. So at a later date, once the city solicitor and I have had an opportunity to propose how that situation would be addressed, I'll then put that forward to the commission as a proposed modification to the rules and regs. And with that, I'll move ahead on the agenda to construction projects, which is the next major subtopic under wastewater. We're in the back end of a hiatus on the sewer separation project. We've had our separation project in wards 1 and 2 ongoing since November of 2020. Our general contractor hasn't been active. They've been in something of a short winter shutdown, but we have had our CIPP or cured in place piping subcontractor doing some piping rehabilitation work. And so far, everything's been going really well with this particular project. Weston and Sampson is the designer, and they're also involved in the construction project management. The contractor has been fantastic so far. I have nothing but good things to say and think of with our contractor, J.A. Polito. I can't necessarily say that that's been the case of all the contracts that we've done for combined sewer separation, but so far we're going very well with this particular project. Now, that said, when we've dealt in the past with the wastewater management plan under the consent decree, as well as when we've gone through sewer rates review, part of that process is looking ahead. We will have more work to do. Obviously, we have more separation work to do. We're not going to be complete with the completion of this in progress construction contract. And we also have a 20% design that we're nearing completion on at the East plant with our designer, CDM Smith. This had to do with upgrades to the control room of the treatment plant, the laboratory of the treatment plant, and also the plant's locker rooms. We didn't have the funding for 20% to 100% on that project, the plant project, I should say, to be clear, and also the services of an OPM. This would be a Chapter 149 project if we were to move forward with this. And by the procurement laws of Massachusetts, if the construction value of the project were to exceed 1.5 million, it flips a trigger that an owner's project manager would be required. So we don't yet have the funding for the design services to take us from 20% to 100% on the plant project. And we don't have the services for the OPM of the plant project. That project, together with our next big separation job, and if I believe that I've been enabled screen sharing. So I'd just like to give a quick overview of the next separation job with a GIS map that my staff has prepared. Nate, if you're still with me, can you give me control for screen sharing?
You should have it, Jeff.
Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen? I think I went to the wrong tab, but I'll talk about this anyway. As everyone can see, this is our treatment plant. One of the things that has been addressed, or we want to address with the plant project, if you can see my hand on this Google Earth, these two tanks are our gravity thickening tanks, and they're covered. Historically, going back into the history of the plant, we had covered both our primary clarifiers, which are these rectangular tanks, and these round tanks over here. These round tanks have to do with sludge thickening. These two tanks on the left of the screen are our secondary sludge thickening. These two tanks on the right-hand side are our primary sludge thickening. So we're drawing sludge from two different locations. The primary sludge thickening tanks, the two on the right here, are very badly degraded and at risk of failure. So we've got some strong concerns about the future life cycle of this. And what we don't want to have happen is to have a gross failure and then be forced to do a repair construction on an emergency basis. So we're going to be discussing with procurement the inclusion of these two tanks into the control room, laboratory, and locker room services improvements project. If I can head over to the other screen I wanted to share. Hopefully this works. Let's try this again. I wish I was an expert in this more so than I actually am. Nate, if you're with me, I'm having trouble toggling over to my second screen. If you can assist me in any way with just your general knowledge.
Do you have two screens going?
I have my laptop screen split in half. I dropped into one screen to talk about the plant. I want to talk about the collection system now, which is a PDF GIS map.
Is that within that window of the map? Is it one of the tabs above?
I think yes, I think you helped talk me through this.
No problem. And the other thing you can always do is stop screen sharing, get what you want set up and then restart up the screen share.
I think I might have to do that. Just give me 1 second. I apologize for this, commission members. I'm sorry. You can't see anything on my end, can you? Rick or Steve George?
We can see the plan that the sewer catchment area.
Oh, perfect. Oh, thank goodness. That's, I was afraid that you couldn't see it. I apologize.
Yeah, no, we see that. It's half of the screen. We're looking at half the screen. Now you've got the other half. Now it's the full screen.
Okay, I apologize for that.
We got
it. Within this view, this is what I was referencing prior, the next job that we're moving on to, where we've come quite a long way since we've started doing separation, and it's had benefits both in the environment and discharges to the environment in the positive beneficial impacts at the treatment plant. And we expect that to continue with the in-progress project. We're also under a timeline crunch by virtue of the consent decree. In this next area that I'm showing on screen here is what we're calling our Main Street area separation job. And what that entails and includes is actually 4 combined sewer overflow regulators, numbers 10, 32, 45, and 83. And they're also some of our more active combined sewer overflow regulators. The area in green, if you can make it out on your screen, I'll just try to trace it with my cursor. That represents what wastewater is identifying as the catchment area to these 4 combined sewer overflow regulators. So part of this process is we actually need to do some additional investigation that will clearly define these limits and also will define what types of work need to be done to address the separation. So to do that, we'll need to engage with Weston and Sampson. We've got them under contract, under the on-call contract for wastewater, which is separate from the city on-call. And they had submitted for us to get into the SRF program to address the investigations. So this project is a big project and will be our largest separation project to date. It will have a sizable service fee associated with investigations as well as design. And it will naturally have the largest construction cost as well. The construction project, we're not expecting to be managed within the current rate, the sewer rate. We'll be addressing that with the next 5-year rate. But what we need to get underway because of a tight timeline will be the borrowing authorization request. And what my intention was to pair the investigation services, the design services associated with the separation project that you're looking at on the screen, together with the treatment plant's 20% to 80% design project and OPM services. So what I'll be doing is we'll be preparing a borrowing authorization request that would address both of the 2 needs. And neither construction project, construction costs will be a part of the borrowing request. It's essentially design services for both cases. So my purpose behind mentioning this is I wanted to give the commission an update that I'm working on this and I'm hoping to come forward with the request for borrowing authorization approval from the commission at next month's meeting. Any questions from the commission members on this particular point? I'll step aside and just continue with the agenda if not.
So next month, you'll be looking for an authorization to borrow for the design of this project. Is that what you're saying?
The investigation services, that's essentially sewer system evaluation study type activities, and the design on this project that the commission is looking at on screen. This is a combined sewer separation project. And then at the plant, we have a small project that I mentioned addresses control room, lab, locker rooms, and also the critical tanks that we're concerned about failing.
Okay, any questions on this? Okay, Jeff, I think we're good on that.
Okay, I'll stop sharing and revert back to the agenda. The construction, picking back up on under the construction agenda item, we do still have the on-call construction contractor under contract. His base contract year will be expiring somewhat soon, and we've resolved to exercise option year 1, which is a city option on the construction contract. We do have a in-progress task, which has been going very well. It has been in a winter shutdown. This is the Highview Street Sewer Rehabilitation and Replacement Project. We'll be coming out of coming out of winter into spring, and we'll be resuming our activities, which will include both trenchless rehab, kind of like what I mentioned with the in-progress separation job, as well as the site restoration type activities that you normally see, loaming and seeding restoration, repair of driveways that may have been damaged in the course of the project, that sort of thing. So we'll be looking at coming to a conclusion, a successful conclusion on that project. I haven't heard many complaints at all from the residents of Highview Street. Later in the spring months, I anticipate that project finalizing. And on the agenda, that just gets us to miscellaneous. The one listed item is rain barrels. We had gotten the project participation assurances from both Conservation Commission and the DPW Engineering Division on behalf of Stormwater. So just today, I'm not sure if anyone has city emails that they may have received it. We sent out our press release indicating that we're launching into our year number 4 of the Rain Barrels program. Just a couple of other miscellaneous type items. My face for radio and my speaking voice for print media will be on tonight's issue of Inside Fitchburg with Councilor Liz Walsh and Lynn Butland, who's actually a member of the planning board in Fitchburg. It'll be a segment that's focused on wastewater. So I'm returning to FATV airwaves after a long hiatus of the Inside Fitchburg program. Next week, I'll be on the local radio with the monthly radio segment. And then I'll also be participating in a special committee of New England Waterworks Association called Waterworks. It's really focused on the staffing challenges that John and I are both experiencing. And I'll also be giving a panel presentation for NEWIA, which is the wastewater equivalent of New England Waterworks Association. And that'll be later in March, and it'll be focused on the same general subject matter, the challenges we're facing in staffing.
Good, we're keeping you busy.
Busier than I'd like, but busier is better than idle.
That's great.
I have no trouble filling up my work day.
Very good. So is there any other business we need to discuss? Okay, the next meeting will be April 14th. It'll be either Zoom or at the Provincial Building. I got my first shot. I don't know how everybody else is doing, but we're getting there. Did you? Cool. Is there any other business? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. You have a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned.